Hello guys, today I am answering rumors that are going around about us. Please subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can be notified when we put up new videos. Hello, I am Tara, the author of the Dining on a Dime cookbook where you can eat better, spend less. We have a new hardcover with full color pictures and over 1,200 recipes and tips to help you save money on your grocery bill. Check it out at livingonadime.com. In our Penny Pinch Mama series, my mom talks about the things that we went through, why she had to live on $500 a month to raise 2 kids. One of the rumors going around is that our house was owned by my grandfather. The specific comment is, what Tara and Jill forget to mention is that their house was owned by Tara's grandfather, if I understood it correctly. Omitting that little bit of info changes everything. You're right to wonder, how did Jill keep up the taxes and upkeep? Okay, I want to answer that a little bit. Our house was not owned by my grandfather. Now, the only reason why I think that rumor might be true is when Mom talks about how she left my dad and only had $35 in her pocket. She moved to southeastern Colorado to live in a house that my great-grandparents owned in a little tiny town in southeastern Colorado. They had a little home that they kept for missionaries to come home on furlough, and they said that we could live in that house while my mom was getting on her feet after her and my dad separated. That was only for not even a year, I don't think. I think it was like 10 or 11 months if I remember right. I was only 10 at the time, but I think it was only for 10 or 11 months. That house was owned by my great-grandparents. Now, Mom did not pay rent to my great-grandparents the first 6 months that we lived there, but the second 6 months, 5 months, however many it was, I think it was like 5 months, that we lived there, she got a job at the school as a substitute lunch lady, and she did start paying my grandparents rent on that. She did pay for all the utilities in that house though. So all the utilities, everything like that. It was just the house to, just the house rent, so to speak. Now, people can say, oh, well, so she got it for free. No wonder she could do that. Listen, the relationship with my mom and my grandparents, so the house we were renting was from my great-grandparents, my dad's grandparents. But the relationship with my grandparents, my dad's parents, was not good. Because of the things that my dad had done, my grandparents did not treat my mom and my brother and I very well. We were there and we saw them, but it was always a very strained relationship. So the house that we rented for 10 or 11 months in southeastern Colorado was owned by my great-grandparents. Mom only lived in it for 6 months rent-free. But after that, she paid them rent. Now, the house that she paid off in Wichita, after my dad had left, she decided to move back from southeastern Colorado back home. She kicked my dad out. My dad left, and my mom stayed in the house that they jointly owned, okay? It was during that time that my dad racked up all of his credit card debt that Mom ended up having to pay off later so that she wouldn't lose the house. My mom paid off that house. She earned $1,000 a month, working 3 jobs. $500 we lived on. $500 went to paying off my dad's debt, her debt, and the house. They did not get divorced until several years after they separated just because they didn't have the money to. And so she didn't want to lose the house, so she went ahead and paid his debt so that we wouldn't be homeless. Now, the next question is, I don't know how Jill paid the taxes and the insurance on that house. This house was a dilapidated mess when Mom and Dad bought it. And I mean a creepy, creepy mess. It's one of these houses that you walk into, it was completely dark, was filthy, absolutely filthy. They spent $10,000 buying it. Then they spent the next 20 years remodeling it. They started while my dad was living there, and then after my parents separated, my dad would come over and help Mom still work on some things on the house to try and get it done, like have water, have a bathtub, stuff like that. So my dad still did come over. He didn't give child support, but he still did come over and help Mom get the house fixed up so that it would be livable for us. My mom paid the taxes and insurance on that place out of the $500 a month that she earned. She can't remember for sure, but she thinks it was only about $500 a month. No, $500 a year for both the taxes and insurance. So that's about $50, give or take, a month that she had to spend on taxes and insurance for the house. Now, they did a lot of work fixing up this house. And like I said, it took 20 years before the house was finished. And then I think it was just a year or two later, she ended up selling the house and moving out to Idaho with us. But it was a full 20 years before they ever got it done, because they just didn't have the money to sink, you know, $50,000 into fixing up this old dilapidated house. The house she paid for out of her own money, the taxes and insurance. Our house was not owned by anyone else. It was only owned by Mom. When they finally got divorced, Mom got the house, and it was kind of funny because I can't remember if it was the judge or the lawyer, said something to Mom, or said something to Dad about, oh yeah, she gets the house, doesn't she? And my dad said, well, she paid for it. So I always think it's funny how the wife always gets the house, but the wife's the one that ends up having to pay for it. And just a little note here. My mom stayed in that house because it was the cheapest rent that she could get. She could not find a place to rent for $50 a year, $50 a month after she had paid off the house. That even back then, that wasn't even hardly possible. So she kept that house, even though it was super cold in the winter, super hot in the summer, and we were only able to live in 3 rooms of it. At least was shelter for us, that it was something that she could afford. So we lived in a house where we didn't have air conditioning. We didn't have central air. This is in Kansas. It's hot and humid. We're talking 110, 115 degrees with 120, 125 degree heat index in August. It was awful. I'm not going to tell you it was fun at all. But Mom would send my brother and I back to Colorado. We would stay with my grandparents for a few weeks in the summer, and it was only her in the house for, you know, a few weeks in the summer. And then we just lived in 3 rooms of that house, and we had a wood stove that we heated, that Mom would go to the sawmill, or if she saw wood laying on the side of the road, and she would fill up the back of her car. We would take the skill saw and cut up pallets, whatever we could do to heat the house. Then for the air conditioning, even though it would be like 110 degrees in Wichita with an 80% chance of humidity, we wouldn't turn on the air conditioner until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it got really bad. She would wait and not turn it on until 2 or 3 o'clock, and then we turned it off like at 7:30 in the evening. So when you're in desperate situations, it's not the time to be running your air conditioner at 65 degrees in the summer, air conditioning your entire house. It's not the time to have your heat set on 78, 80 degrees in the winter to keep it warm. You cut those things down so that you can survive. And that's what we did. That's how she was able to pay the utilities. So if you see Mom and I get snarky about some of this stuff when people say, well, you just don't know what it's like to be a single mom. Okay, I have not been a single mom, but I was the child of a single mom. And let me tell you, it was no cakewalk. I saw how hard my mom worked. I saw what we had to do to make ends meet. And that is why we have zero patience when people start whining and hollering about how bad their situation is, but then they don't want to do anything to better their situation. My mom worked 3 jobs and was still a stay-at-home mom for us. She worked while we were at school during the day, and then in the evening she had 2 other jobs. She made sure she was always there for us when we got home from school. So when stay-at-home moms email me and say, well, I just can't do it. We just can't do it. Yes, you can. You just don't want to do it. And I understand there are some people who truly have extenuating circumstances where the husband has had a stroke, they've got 4 kids, and the mom has to go to work. I understand that. But I guarantee you, I have only run across that in the thousands of emails and comments that we have had over the last 20 years. I have only run into that scenario about 5 times where it was a truly desperate situation. And in that situation, sometimes you just have to suck it up and hang on until you can get through. Life isn't always going to be easy, and life is definitely not fair. I understand that. And that's partly why Mom and I get so frustrated with people when they make the comments about these things. So that's what we did with our housing. It was not fun, but we made it through and we lived to tell about it on the other side. Guys, please check out our Dining on a Dime cookbook. It's on sale right now to help you cut your grocery bill. Visit us at livingonadime.com for thousands of free tips and recipes to help you save money and get out of debt.